Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another Marvel Champion the card game unboxing. This is for Mutant Genesis. We are starting a new series or a new set. So we went through the Avengers. We started off with. Then we went into Guardians of the Galaxy. We had some champions mixed in there. Then we swung over, pun intended, I guess, into the Spider Verse. And now we're starting kind of fresh with X-Men and Mutants. This is definitely one thing I've been excited for. I'm glad you're doing. So hopefully that also means that, after they do a few sets of this, is maybe we might get some Fantastic Four, which would be the other, giant major team that we're missing. So yeah, there's definitely, of course, on the background spoilers who we're getting. We're getting starting off with Shadowcat and Colossus, which is an interesting combination to do in the main deck. I'm surprised they didn't go with more of an icon, like one of the iconic characters or duos. Granted, these are definitely all iconic and character, definitely a combination. But we have Sabretooth, Sentinels, Master Brotherhood, and Magneto. So we're going to jump into that, and then we'll have other videos as the other X-Men come in their hero packs. So, of course, what is in this? Just heads up, spoilers, of course, for the storyline of the campaign, if you're trying to avoid that. So the first video will focus on kind of going through just the base rules of the book, and then I'll go through the two heroes, and then part 2 will go through the villains in the campaign. So when we get to that, there will be a bunch more spoilers for what the storyline is if you're trying to avoid that. But this one will just focus on the heroes, so I won't go through that until the next one, other than the fact you just saw who's all in there. So of course there's a bunch of keywords listed. Now, if you've been following along with all the other thing, almost none of these are brand new, but they're brand new if you've only bought the original base game, which is still required to play this. So we'll go through these kind of quick. We have Hinder X. The card with Hinder X is revealed. Place X threat on that card. Patrol. When any minion with Patrol is engaged with a player, that player cannot thwart the main scheme. A permanent. A permanent cannot be defeated. Leave play. Have any part of the text box playing. This rule does not apply to cards within the same set as the card permanent. That basically means and just off the top of my head, this isn't correct, but if for some reason I would have a scheme called, it might be Zero Tolerance, might be the one, but if there's a scheme in there that's permanent, so it has to stay out, there's no way to remove that permanent, it's always going to be a threat. It doesn't apply to the other stuff in the module. The same thing if the hero or scenario, if I have a permanent form card for one of my heroes, that doesn't get removed. I can't remove it because I always have access to that card. It doesn't affect any of the other cards. We have Piercing. In attack, Piercing discards any tough status damage before dealing damage. Otherwise, normally you'd have to discard the damage card instead of doing damage. Ranged attack ignores retaliate keyword. Setup begins the game in play. That can affect heroes and modular cards as well. Stalwart. Character Stalwart cannot be stunned or confused. And then we have Steady, which is a different version of that. A character Steady can have one additional stun status card and one additional confused card. Characters not stunned unless they have 2 status cards and not confused unless they have 2. So where a Stalwart character can't be stunned or confused no matter what, a Steady character just takes 2 of each to be stunned. But after they've had both of them, they get 2 stuns, then they're stunned for the turn, and they both go away. And then we have Teamwork. So this one is brand new. Teamwork with a trait. After a minion with Teamwork enters the play and engages a player, if there's at least one other minion that shares a specified trait in play, each minion shares Teamwork. The specified trait activates. So their example is if Jason is engaged with Galago when Emily reveals he engaged Seneca, that has Teamwork Acolyte. Because he also has Acolyte, they both activate against who they're playing. So it allows multiple villains to come in and hit everyone at the same time. Then we have Team Up. The team up keyword names 2 characters, including cards, to the team up keyword in your deck. You choose the identity to match, must match one of the named characters. Additionally, a card team up cannot be played unless both characters' identities or allies are in play. So they've added these things, Guardians. To play them, you have to own. To include a keyword, your identity must match one of the named characters. So this means Shadowcat and Colossus. You have to have Shadowcat or Colossus as your main character to even play that, or to even include that card in your deck. And then to play it, you have to have another character. Now it could be, if I'm Shadowcat, I need Colossus to play the card. It could be my ally Colossus. It could be another player playing Colossus as a main character. It could be another player playing Colossus as an ally, as long as there's another Colossus somewhere in play. And then we have Villainous. A minion with Villainous activates, giving a face-down boost card from the top of the entire deck. When that minion's activation resolves, turn the boost card face up to resolve any boost abilities on that card. Apply its boost icons to its stats and discard it afterwards. They're just basically more powerful. And then Victory X. When a card of Victory X is defeated, place it in the Victory display instead of its owner's discard pile. And we have the Amplify icon. Amplify icon increases the number of boost icons on enemy cards. Simple there. Another new rule are additional forms, which we've seen in other characters as well. But this is basically for Shadowcat. She has the additional phase forms. These forms are addition to your identity's alter ego. So it's anytime there's an extra card the character will have that's outside their main identity that lets them change stuff. Of course, being this is a campaign, we're going to have our special campaign modes, campaign-specific cards, and the campaign log. Again, I don't want to get into too much of that. Although I am going to dive into this quick before we get into the characters. So we have campaign roles. This is a brand new thing for this thing. So the X-Men are specifically a team. Not to say the Avengers or Guardians aren't a team, but I think more, and probably just really didn't come up with this right away, but I think kind of the more the thought is, although the X-Men have a large roster, and sometimes they split up into multiple teams, it's typically been like roughly the same group of characters year after year after year, where the Avengers and the Guardians keep constantly changing who's on their team. I think that's sort of what their whole focus is. But what you do in here is you get to assign 4 roles to your characters. So you can be a brawler, a commander, a defender, or a peacekeeper. So each one combines the capabilities of 2 core aspects of the game, giving players access to new effects that enhance their chosen aspect or augment the deck's normally access. So what you're gonna do basically, just gist of what all this down here says, and you can read all it. There's 5 extra upgrade cards that you can unlock throughout the game for each class. So Brawler has 5, Commander has 5. I believe there's 1 card that is in 2 different decks. So like there's 1 card that's like in Brawler, and then the other 4 are unique. 1 card in Commander that might be in a different one. The other 4 are unique. I believe that's how it was. But what they do is they give you basically extra bonus effect that you can use, but they go away at the end of the game. They're removed from the campaign, whether you're used or not. So you want to keep using them. Just so it's not like you're hanging on to these for later. You want to always keep using them over and over. It's kind of fun. But what it is, so if I'm playing as a brawler and that's stuff that's going to give me extra aggression and protection, and so on and so forth. But you do not have to have an aggression or a protection character to be the brawler. So like Colossus, for example, is our first character. He is a protection type character. He can be the brawler if you want. But because he's protection, or a defender because he's protection. But you could give him commander or a peacekeeper if you'd like. Hey, maybe he's taking lead this time. Maybe he's, being the peacekeeper, which is also very in his role. What makes this also really fun is, in addition to these unique upgrades, each role gives you the ability to further customize their deck. When setting up a scenario in the campaign mode, each player may choose one copy of an event and or one copy of an upgrade from their collection of their role's associated aspect, if their deck does not already include the chosen role. So just what that means is, again, I have Colossus, who's a protector. I can make him a commander, who's an aggression leadership. I can include an aggression or a leadership event or upgrade, 2 different cards into my deck. So it just gives you that little extra tweak. Maybe you want to have a character that's already a leader have 1 extra ally that's not, above and beyond maybe what you can normally do. Maybe you want to give them an extra, aggression card or whatever. So it's really cool. It lets you basically give your characters 2 extra cards to modify their deck. That is basically it. So then we end up jumping into the campaign, which we will look at in part 2. So part 1, let's hop into our characters. So starting off, since we've already been talking about Colossus, let's go ahead and look at what he does. 1 second, I adjust my camera. Found this works out a little bit better, so you guys can read it. So, Colossus only has a hand size of 4, 14 hit points, 1 thwart, 2 attack, and 2 defense. He has the X-Men team, so that's a new keyword we haven't had before, or a new trait, rather. Colossus can have 1 additional tough status card, and Steel Sting response. After you change his form, give Colossus a tough status card. So every time you switch to his hero form, he's going to automatically gain that bonus defense. That is extra cool. Plus, he can have an additional one on him. So that's even better. So you can take 2 hits for free if you get that second tough card on him. And if we flip over to his alter ego side, we have Piotr Rasputin, which I love that they put him as Piotr instead of just Peter. That's his Russian name. So this side he gets Mutant, which is our other new, one of our other new traits set up. Search your deck for a copy of Organic Steel, add it to your hand. An Inspiring Artist response. After you change this form, shuffle a Colossus card from your discard pile into your deck. So this is definitely cool. So he's going to be wanting to change back and forth a lot. He's going to start off with Organic Steel, which he's probably going to want to use a bunch. But you can basically get his tough cards, take some damage, switch back over, get some of them, get a card back into your deck, switch back over. You can see him flipping over a lot. Also, it ups his hand size to 6, so it can give you some extra options for that turn. Switch over, get your hand filled up, put a card back in, then switch over, do a couple of things with reduced hands. You won't get to draw as much. Alright, let's take a look at his deck, his specific deck. We have Shadowcat, so of course he's going to have Shadowcat as a team up. I love this and I hate this at the same time, because it definitely makes sense. Shadowcat would be a signature ally, but it also means that if I'm playing these 2 together as campaign, I can't actually use Shadowcat, because she's already in play in my opponent's, or my teammate's side, so she's only worth a wild. But otherwise, what's she do? 2 thwart, 2 attack. Shadowcat ignores the guard and patrol keywords and any crisis icons in play. So basically, she can just come in and do damage or thwart whatever she needs to do, which is definitely fun. Come on, Peter, you big oaf. Your body is made of metal, not your brain. Definitely a fun ally to have. And then we have Piotr Studio, because he loves to paint. Location, alter ego action. Exhaust Piotr Studio, discard a card from your deck until you discard a Colossus card. Add that card to your hand. Under that Steel Sting is the heart of an artist who would rather paint than fight. So he's getting this option to get his specific cards out, which is really great. And plus, when you switch over his alter ego form, you can automatically add 1 card, which gives you a chance to get that card you just added back in quicker, especially if your deck was low already. Alright, we have Iron Will with an upgrade superpower. Colossus gets +1 thwart. Hero response. After a tough status card is discarded from Colossus, draw a card. PD's will is just as strong as Armored Skin. He don't ever quit. Yeah, this is sweet. So he wants to thwart with this, which is kind of funny. He's like, oh, he's a big brute. He's going to just do damage. He sure can. But here it gives you an option to do some thwarting. Because he likes to be more on the defensive side versus the attacking side. But it's also, hey, if he takes damage, he gets a card back. His other card lets him draw. He's going to get the cards out he needs. We have Titanium Muscles. Here he gets one attack. This is when he gets mad. Hero Resource. Exhaust this card to generate a fist or fighting resource for each tough status card on Colossus. Now this is really cool because it's if he's in hero mode, he gains extra chance to play more cards. Which out 1 to 2. As soon as he flips over, he's always going to gain that one status card. So this will always get him that if you play this while he's already there, you should hopefully already have one if you play it on the same turn. Then we're going to get 2 copies of the Organic Steel, which his card let him put into play. So it was set up, search your deck for a copy of Organic Steel and add it to your hand. So you just start with one of these in play. It says use 2 steel counters. Hero response. After a tough status card is discarded from Colossus, exhaust this card and move 1 steel card to give him a tough status card. So it's kind of crazy. You start as Peter Rasputin, and then you have this card in your hand. And you flip him over, he automatically gains 1 tough status card as Colossus. Then you could play this. So then if that he gets hurt, he basically can re-put on that thing right away, his tough status card. So and he can do that up to twice. So basically, right off the bat, he can take 3 hits without too much problem. And that's crazy. And then when you flip him back over, you can then go find this card, from your discard pile if you've used it, or if you get rid of it. And then once it's empty, you can get rid of it. Then you can go find it and put it back in your deck, and then draw it again. So it's gonna come back out. Alright, 2 copies of Made of Steel, which cost 0. Hero Interrupt. When you make a basic attack, discard a tough status card from your hero. You get +6 for that attack. That attack gains Overkill. So yeah, he only has 2 attack, which isn't like super crazy. But now he has +8 attack if you get rid of one of them steel. Or tough. And the thing is, again, because when he turns to Colossus, he's always going to have 1 tough status. So he's already ready to use his abilities. So that's definitely awesome. Just destroy a minion, hit the boss. He's got 3 copies of Steel Fist, Attack Superpower, Hero Action. Deal 5 damage to an enemy. You may discard a tough status card from a hero to stun and confuse that enemy. Comrades, let us end this battle once and for all. And it's also love the fact he can have the additional tough status because he gives himself 1, and then because of that, he can keep using these abilities that let him, get rid of that. But then someone else can also still effectively play him as just another character. Like, oh, I'm playing Doctor Strange, who gives out status cards. You can give one to him without him, like, oh crap, he already gave him one, so I have to kind of waste this. Nope, that's just even cooler about that. 2 copies of Bulletproof Protector. Hero Action, discard tough status card from your hero to choose. Give your hero 2 tough status cards or ready your hero. So that is fun. If you already have your status, you can gain 2 of them, which then will help your other abilities. Or if you didn't have one for some reason, or if you don't think you need 2 of them for whatever reason, you can just ready your hero and attack again. Or maybe you already had 2, discard 1. You can't have more than 2 anyhow. You can ready to attack. And then his final 2 cards are Armor Up. Which has some awesome artwork there where he's like half transformed. Alter Ego Interrupt. When a villain activates, change to hero form. You toyed with me when you should have slain me, allowing me time to change from Pika Rasputin to Colossus. Which is a very weird line, but it does sound like something he might say. You toyed with me when you should have slain me, allowing me time to change from Pika Rasputin to Colossus. That's a very terrible Russian accent. But yeah, that's actually cool too. That when you're in alter egos, you're healing. Like, hey crap, like that guy's gonna steam or do something. You can flip over and defend right away. So yeah, Colossus is definitely a cool character. So let's take a look at his protection deck. So we're gonna get some more X-Men, which of course we want. We love X-Men. We're gonna get Nightcrawler, Kurt Wagner, which definitely makes sense. We're forming Excalibur right now. Colossus, Shadowcat, Nightcrawler. To thwart, to attack. Interrupt. When X-Men character takes any amount of damage from an attack, spend 1 energy resource to return Nightcrawler to your hand. Prevent all of that damage. Yeah, costs a little bit to use because it costs 3 to play him, costs an extra energy to spend that, so it's technically like 4 to use this ability. But 4 for 100% protection on an attack is definitely great. Because you prevent stuff that maybe you couldn't normally take. And then plus the fact that he goes to your hand, so he's reusable. So you can play him again. The only downside to it would be because it says when an X-Men character. So it's great, but it's only going to work if you're playing him in an X-Men deck. So if you try and combine him with the, if you, like, I have Shadowcat, someone else has Star-Lord, and someone else has, Captain Marvel, and we're making, like, a weird cosmic team, Nightcrawler wouldn't help. It only helps Shadowcat in that sense. Alright, then we have Polaris, Lorena Dane, 1 thwart, 2 attack. Response. After Polaris enters play, give an X-Men character card a tough status card. I love my father, but he seeks to dominate others. I will fight to protect him. Her father, of course, is Magneto. Again, 3, a little bit costly, but gives any X-Men character, again, that's a slight limitation, but it gives him a status card. I say that, but again, I'm sure if you go back to the Guardian cards, a lot of them say they only do stuff for Guardians, the Avengers only do stuff for Avengers. So that's not like it's a game-breaking thing there. Yeah, just any character stuff works super great with Colossus. Immediately, boom, now you have 2 tough status cards, or help with somebody else, whoever. Up next, we have a brand new type of card for the X-Men. We have 3 copies of Protective Training, which are a training trait. So this is an upgrade. It says attached to an X-Men ally. Max 1 training upgrade per ally. Attached ally gets 3 hit points. So there's going to be a bunch of these training cards they came up with, which are really cool. And it makes sense. Not that other teams don't train, but the X-Men literally have a danger room for training. So this gives your allies extra boosts. Sworn to protect the world that hates and fears them, the X-Men train constantly. But now since you only have 1 training per ally, you just kind of figure out what works best for what characters you have. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to put a card like this on Nightcrawler just because you might bounce him back to your hand. Alright, 3 copies of Powerful Punch. Now we're going to get some cards we can use in any decks. Attack and defense. Hero interrupt, attack, or defense. When an enemy initiates an attack, deal 4 damage to that enemy. How about a knuckle sandwich? So that's definitely fun. So, enemies attacking, or if they're defending, you can interrupt that and dealing an automatic 4 damage to them. Definitely cool. 3 copies of Bait and Switch, Thwart, Hero Action Thwart. The villain attacks you. Remove 4 threat from the main scheme. Didn't see that coming, did you, sugar? That's Rogue. Go ahead. When they're going to thwart, instead, they attack you. It doesn't interrupt it, so I think they still thwart. But it might force them to attack you instead. So there it's going, yeah, that's actually kind of fun though. And then they have to move 4 threat from that main steam. Basically draw their attack to them. Then we have 3 copies of Preservance, which is a tactic. Hero response, after you change form, give your hero a tough status card. No, again, works perfect with Colossus, but anybody would definitely like to have this card. Quit your fussing already. You're alive, ain't you? It was my terrible Wolverine impression. But yeah, just giving anyone a tough status card for 1 is definitely fun. So I can't argue with that. 3 copies of Mutant Protector's Defense. Only if your identity has the X-Men trait. Hero Interrupt Defense. When an enemy attacks, put an X-Men ally into play from your hand, exhaust it, and declare the defender for this attack. So basically, yeah, you can chuck an enemy out, and they can take damage. You don't have to pay for them, so maybe it's like, I have, both Nightcrawler and Polaris are 3 cost. I can't afford to play them right now, or I don't think I'm going to really need Nightcrawler's defense ability, or maybe I do need it, but I guess I'm going to have to sacrifice him, or I don't need to gain more tough status cards. Here's a great thing. Throw them out, use that, or later if you get other X-Men that have like one-time coming-to-play effects. Coming to play, they did this, am I going to really need that, or they're really high cost? Chuck them out, to take a hit. Or, alternatively, it says when an enemy attacks, exhaust it and declare the attack from the defender. This could also be a way to get in a higher cost guy for really cheap, because it doesn't say that after the attack they go away. So again, when you have a 5 cost ally, I could play this, get that guy in, he's going to take a hit, hopefully he can survive it because he's a big enough character, and then he gets to stay into play, and I can use him a second time. And our last protection card are 2 copies of Defensive Energy. So we're getting some new resources here. Max 2 Protect. Hero Interrupt, when you spend this card to play a defense event, draw 1 card. So this is a nice, fun, extra resource. It's basically, you can play it, get your wild energy down there, and then when you play it, you can also, use it at that time, to gain an extra card. So you can't argue with that, right? Who doesn't like extra cards? Alright, so then our first basic, so now it's going to be included everywhere, of course, Professor X, Charles Xavier, 3 thwart and 0 attack, which makes sense. We have a new trait, we have Psionic, and we have X-Men, so we're going to see Psionic a lot, because of course we're going to have characters like Jean Grey and Psylocke, White Queen, different characters like that. Forced Response, after Professor X enters play, choose 1, confuse the villain, stun a minion, or ready an X-Men character. At the end of the round, if Professor X is still in play, discard him. So I think this is very reminiscent of like Nick Fury's ability. Comes in, has multiple options, big effect, but then if he's still there at the end of the turn, he goes away. He's just kind of there to come in, help out, and then leave. So there's something. You could always use that defensive card to throw Professor X in the way to take a hit. Kind of mean to throw a guy in a wheelchair in front of an enemy, but it is a possibility. But it also says when he comes into play, you can force one of these abilities to happen, and then you can take that hit and go away. So doubly fun there. We have 1 copy of the X-Jet, X-Men Vehicle. Resource. Exhaust the X-Jet to generate 1 wild resource for a player whose identity has the X-Men trait. Free extra wild every turn. Forger will outdid himself with this beauty. And then we have our team-up card. Shadow and Steel. Attack and defense. Team up with Colossus and Shadowcat. Hero Interrupt. When an enemy attacks, prevent all damage from that attack and deal 4 damage to the attacking enemy. So that's actually definitely cool. It's a lot better than the one we had before. So when the enemy attacks, you can just ignore it and then deal 4 damage to them. So definitely sweet. But again, to play this, you have to have either Colossus or Shadowcat as your main character. And then you have to have one of the other ones. So if I'm playing Shadowcat and Colossus in this campaign, this should be really easy to get out because it will always have both of them available. I can play mine, Shadowcat can play hers. That way. But if I'm playing Colossus somewhere else, at least I have Shadowcat as a signature ally. So if I can get my one signature ally, I can play this card and have it ready to go. But then I gotta kind of keep her out. Or alternatively, if somebody else is playing and they have Shadowcat as an ally, like if she's available as a basic at some point, I think most of the cards are available. Sometimes as a basic, maybe it's a different color. Then you can play it that way. And then we're going to get our 3 resource cards. We have Energy, adds 2 energy, Genius, and Strength. But I like that they have brand new artwork for X-Men characters. Now, it would have been cool if they would have done this for Guardians as well. I also know that a lot of places are doing, like fan sites I go to for this game. People are reprinting these so that each one of the 3 card matches their character. So, like, that'd mean, like, Colossus would have his own 3 signature pictures on him. Captain America would have his. Groot would have his. And that's definitely a cool thing to do if you can, print off just, like, your own card to put in there. That's definitely a neat little thing, extra thing to do because it doesn't affect anything. Alright, so then the last 2 things we have for Colossus, of course, is his obligation. Give to the Pieter Rasputin player. They may flip to the alter ego form. Choose exhaust Pieter, remove homesick from the game. So, like typical ones, lose the game. Or not lose the game. Lose your turn. Go to alter ego form. And then exhaust him so you can't attack or flip or anything that turn. Or discard this card and use tough status card from your again. If you discard no tough status cards this way, this card gains surge. So if you really need to stay in your hero form, you can discard this tough status cards. But you'd have to discard all of them. And if you choose absolutely not to, you can just gain surge and deal with something different. So it's kind of depending on where you're sitting at that point. Can you afford to lose an entire turn without attacking or doing any of that stuff? Get rid of this and never have to deal with it again. Or you could just discard this card. If you have no tough status cards, but if you really need to attack again or something that turn, but you might deal with even a worse threat, such as Juggernaut. So this is our Colossus Nemesis. So now the X-Men are very interesting for the Nemesis because as a almost based purely on team, they're almost always in team stuff versus the other characters. Like, yeah, the Avengers are a team as well, but Captain America has his own stuff. Iron Man has his. Thor has his own. And then Guardians, although again they are generally always together as a team, their roster, like in the current history, that formation of the team is fairly new. But otherwise their roster does kind of change a bunch. So it's sort of the main 5, but they all kind of have had their own past before that. So that's why they each have their own thing. But the X-Men generally lots of times don't have a straight up signature nemesis. They're kind of like, as a team we fight these. So they're just kind of gave who worked best for the character. Cause I don't think Juggernaut and Colossus have necessarily a direct issue with each other. But it also means that probably we're not going to get Professor X as a main character. But if we do, there's also so many other people he could fight. So we have 1 scheme and 4 attack with 8 health. He's a brute and an elite with stalwart and toughness. So he's going to get a tough status card and he can't be stunned or confused. Boost. If this activation is an attack, that attack gains overkill and piercing. Nothing can stop the Juggernaut. What did you expect with him? He's going to be big, beefy, hard to take down. He has a Rampaging Juggernaut as a side scheme. Juggernaut possesses the power of the Sidorak and it also drives him mad. Well, it's not entirely true, but I get it. When revealed, discard each tough status card from each friendly character. Place 2 threats from here for each tough status card discarded this way. So this is why against Juggernaut, this could be a definitely bad one to get, because you're always trying to keep your tough status cards out to use your abilities, and you're going to keep gaining them, so this could definitely ramp up that quick. And then he's got 2 copies of Unstoppable, an attachment. Gives him +2 attack, which he didn't really need. Attached to the enemy with the highest printed attack without a copy of Unstoppable attached. Otherwise, it gains Surge. Forced Interrupt. When attached enemy attacks, the attack gains Overkill and Piercing. At the end of the attack, discard Unstoppable. So at least there's one upside to that. It's going to give someone 2 attack, which is going to suck, Overkill and Piercing. So if they do defeat one of your allies, it's going to go to your hero, and it ignores their gets rid of their tough status card, which all suck. But at least when it's done, it gets discarded, and you don't have to keep reusing it, or you don't have to find a way to get rid of it. And then we have Slammed. Treachery card, which says, when revealed, you are stunned. If you're already stunned, take 2 damage. And then boost reveal this card. Don't you know who I am? Juggernaut. That's actually a funny image, because I think that is from that might have been when he was with the Thunderbolts. So he was kind of a semi-good guy at the point. I might be wrong, but that's what that image looks like. Alright, so that was Colossus. So yeah, them tough statuses and all that is really cool. Let's check out our little bit more fragile character. We have Shadowcat, who has 5 hand size and 9 hit points, versus Colossus has 14. So there's a decent amount more, but he has 2 thwart, 2 attack, 2 defense. X-Men, of course. Selective and Intangibility. When you are in phased mass form, Shadowcat ignores the guard and patrol keywords and any crisis icons in play. Sounds a lot like her player card, her ally card. You cannot stop what you can't hold. And then let's flip her over. We have Kitty Pride, 3 recovery, setup, put your mass form, upgrade into play, solid side face up, phase control action. Flip your mass form, upgrade. Limit once per round. So she has a special form card. We've seen this before with like the Vision. So she has phased, mass form, permanent. It says, while Shadowcat is defending, she cannot take damage. Force response, after you attack or defend in phase mass form, flip this card. Yeah, so she can defend, but she can't take damage. Basically, the attack comes towards her, and it's just ignored. It still tries to damage her, so it's still at least forcing the attacker to like attack at her. She just doesn't take damage, but after she does it, she has to flip over to her mass form, and then she'll have solid. Exhaust this card, generate 1 fist resource for an attack or defense event, and then response after you attack or defend, flip this card. She's going to constantly be switching back and forth. Which I think like the Vision had the choice, but his was also a little bit different. I have to like review it to see exactly what it is. But then you can use your phase control to actually flip your form. So if you're in one state, you can flip over to the one you really need to be in. And then with her hero side, it says, while you're in phase mass form, you ignore guard and patrol keywords and any crisis icons. So it's kind of fun because you can be in, while you're in hero form, if you're in your phase form, you can basically get in and you'll ignore all the words that try and stop you from attacking or going to something you need to do or thwarting what you need to thwart. And if you flip the alter ego side, or while you're also in phase form, you can also avoid your damage. So she's great for attacking, she's great for forwarding, she's great for defending while she's in hero form. But then after every time, you're going to have to flip back over to that other side, over to your solid side. So then you're going to have to either spend an action, flip back over to the other side to do it, or you're going to have to attack with one side. So she's got a little bit of resource management to go back and forth there. She does really great when she's in phase. She's a little bit more vulnerable when she's not. Alright, then let's check her. Her signature ally is not Colossus, it is Lockheed. Lockheed the Dragons. We haven't seen the Dragon T trait either. 1 thwart, 1 attack. Response. After Lockheed enters play, if you are in solid mass form, deal 2 damage to an enemy. If in phase, you remove 2 threat from a scheme. So playing him at a certain point is very depending on what you want him to do. Do you want him to attack, or do you want him to thwart? Definitely cool. So she gets Kitty's room, which is a location. Now, I'm not positive with all the other characters, but I believe every character, or every X-Men is going to get a special location unique to them. And it kind of also shows because they live in a mansion, they have their own rooms. So they're kind of getting their own location rooms that kind of really reflect their living styles. Or again, like, they kind of note that maybe the Avengers live in a thing, or the Guardians kind of live in the ship, so they kind of get some nodes to that, but like the X-Men live in the mansion. The mansion is their home. It's where they frequent. Her alter ego action, exhaust Kitty's room if you're in it. If you're in solid mass form, heal 2 damage from Kitty. If you're in phase, draw a card. So this is again where it's like, although she's really powerful in her phase form because she can get through the thwart, or she can defend better and all this, it's not saying her solid mass form is bad. Here, lets her heal quicker. But maybe you need to draw a card. So some of these just depend on what you need to do. She's got an upgrade. Acute Control. Superpower. Hero Response. After you ignore a guard or patrol keyword on a minion, exhaust Acute Control, deal 2 damage to that minion. So if she attacks while phased, she can jump in and do 2 extra damage. Definitely nice. Now, it's also kind of cool is because if she's in her phase form, she can automatically do this. If she's in solid mass form, if there's another card that lets her do this, she can also use this. Do you know just how much concentration it takes to phase just my foot? Intangible Interference. Superpower. Hero Response. After you ignore a crisis icon on a scheme, exhaust Intangible Interference, remove 2 threat from that scheme. Shadowcat's phasing ability has a disruptive effect on electronics. So that's definitely fun there too. It's the same thing. If you can somehow find a way, otherwise her phase form automatically lets her do that. 2 copies of Phased and Confused. Hero form only. Attach to an enemy, max once per enemy. Force Interrupt. When the attached enemy would attack, discards dead, then confuse that enemy. Free confusing, but you have to be in hero form. That's, not bad at all. 3 copies of Shadowcat Surprise, an event. Attack superpower. Hero action attack. Deal 3 damage to an enemy. Ready your hero. You're about to see something else you're probably not ready for. Yeah, just 3 damage, and then ready your hero to attack again, or defend. And then the fact is, again, if she's in her phased form, this becomes even more powerful. Normally, just 3 damage, but if she's in phase, she can ignore that guard and patrol. She can just jump right in and do that, and then you can ready her, and you can have her ready to defend with her. I mean, she'll attack, so flip her over to her other side. But you can have her attack normally, in her solid form, and you can have her ready to phase. So you have some different options there. Because, as soon as you attack, you're going to flip over. So if you attacked once, attack with this, you can either get through that stuff, and then flip to phase. Now you're ready to defend with your phased ability. Or you could attack with phased, or attack with phase to ignore that, and then be ready as your hero form. In Solid, now you can do this. You can exhaust this to generate resource to do an extra attack. She have another attack ready for her, which is more powerful. Or you can go the other way. You can attack that way with this one, and generate one resource for this attack in solid form, and then now your second one, now you're ready to do a Fender attack. So yeah, going back and forth is definitely going to be a really interesting mechanic. 2 copies of Phase Strike. Attack superpower, deal 6 damage to an enemy if you're in Phase Mass Form. You may if you are in Phase Mass Form, you may discard an attachment with the text hero action or hero response from that enemy. Nice. So, yeah, you can basically get rid of one of your cards you attach to them if you needed to. Like, hey, I can get this card back quicker. And just deal 6 damage. It's definitely great. Again, which works really well with her going back and forth with her things. Because again, if you're in solid form, when you perform an attack, you get basically the extra point to spend towards this stuff. And then if you're in, because I love that, exhaust this to generate a resource for an attack. So basically now this only costs 2, so you can do 6 for even cheaper. But if you're in the other one, you can discard your other form. Then she has 2 copies of Airlock. Action Thwart. Remove 2 Thwart from a steam for threat instead if you're in phased mass form. So yeah, wanting to be in that phased mass form definitely helps out with this stuff. This one, that's really the only way you want to play it almost, but 4 threat is a lot. And then finally 2 copies of Quick Shift. Defense superpower. When an enemy attacks, if you're in solid mass form, change the phase. So you can use that her damage prevention, or if you are in phase, you can kind of choose to take the hit if you want to defend. But you get to draw 2 extra cards, which will get you some extra bonuses. So definitely some cool, interesting stuff with Shadowcat. Let's look at her aspect deck, which is Aggression. Which seems odd. You think like she might be protective or justice, but no, she's gonna be Aggression. Which makes sense. She's kind of an angry little girl. And of course, she's gonna get Wolverine Logan as her ally. One of their first team ups. So 4 cost ally, 1 thwart, 3 attack with his condition, but he has Wolverine's attacks gain piercing, so he doesn't take. You take 2 consequential damage. But he's also going to do piercing, which is great. Response, after your turn begins, heal 1 damage from Wolverine. So if he keeps thwarting for 1, which isn't much, he can basically do it every single turn. But if he attacks, he can attack once, now he's down to 2 health. He can wait a turn, gain his health back. He can attack a second time, because he'll be up to 3 health, now he's down to 1. So if he waits 1 more turn, he could get 3 full attacks, and then die. Or he could keep waiting in between some of them and healing all the way back up. So that's definitely a very Wolverine thing. Really cool. Our second one is Magic, Shadowcat, and Ileana Rasputin. Definitely hung out and teamed up a lot, which is really cool. They're like basically sisters. Plus the fact that Colossus is in the set adds extra because that's Colossus' younger sister. So she has 1 thwart, 2 attack. She's Mystic and X-Men. Response. After you play magic from your hand, spend a genius resource to choose a non-elite minion engaged with an X-Men hero. Shuffle that minion into the counter deck. So this is supposed to be like her teleportation discs. She comes into play. You can spend a resource, or after you play her from your hand, you can spend a resource to basically get rid of one of the enemies attacking you. So that's definitely a fun thing. Has to be non-elite though, but that makes sense. So we have 3 copies of attack training. So we went through the protection training, now we have attacking training. Attacking X-Men ally. Ally gets +1 attack and 2 hit points. So now imagine throwing this on Wolverine. So now he does 4 damage with piercing, and he can do it an extra full time easily. So now you could technically get 4 hits out of him. He can take out a lot of guys with that for being an ally. Definitely fun. 3 copies of Gatekeeper. Condition. Attached to a minion. Attached minion gets +2 hit points and gains patrol. Interrupt. When attached minion is defeated, remove 4 threat from the main Steam. This is kind of a neat one. That you get to attach cards to bad guys. Makes them a little bit harder. Makes them that patrol. So you have to defeat them before you can defeat the threat. But the thing is, when you defeat them, you remove 4 threat from the main Steam. I think this works really well with Shadowcat, because of course she can just ignore that patrol keyword if she wants. Let somebody else take him out. For that extra 2. And get extra 4 threat. Also might work well with someone like Thor, who really wants to take out minions. Just gets you an extra, hey, he's gonna deal a ton of damage anyhow. Boom. So then we have 3 copies of Team Strike. When a cost event with an attack, play only if your identity has the X-Men trait. Hero action. Exhaust your hero and any number of X-Men allies. Deal X damage among enemies in play, where X is a total number of attack characters you exhausted this way. So this is really fun, because it could have just been like a 1-to-1. Exhaust your hero and any number of X-Men allies. So right now, with the characters that we have, we're playing Shadowcat and Colossus. We have 3 allies in Colossus's deck, because we had Nightcrawler, Polaris, and Professor X, because we wouldn't be able to play Shadowcat. And Shadowcat so far has Ileana, Wolverine, and Lockheed. So so either one has 3 total. So right now, you can exhaust 3 characters to do 3 damage against any number of enemies. So 2 here, 3 there. Now this would work really awesome if you could add this with the roles that we talked about earlier. So make someone give this their role, add it into a leadership deck, where also now they can have 3 or 4 more allies out, right? Definitely would be more powerful with something like that. That'd be a cool way to give it to an deck that has leadership. They have more allies out. All of a sudden, boom! Now they can tap 3 or 4 allies, which would definitely be cool. Then we got 3 copies of Toe to Toe. 1 cost event attack, hero action attack. Choose an enemy. That enemy attacks you, deal 5 damage to that enemy. You're not the only one who's the best at what they do, Wolverine. Take the attack on. Great, they're going to attack you, but you're going to deal 5 damage to them. So, maybe take a hit, but sacrifice them. Then we have our other resource. We have 2 copies of Aggressive Energy with Havoc there. Hero Interrupt. When you spend this attack to play an attack event, deal 1 additional damage. So the green one for protection was a defense, I believe. Yep, when you play a defense event, draw a card. This one's when you do an attack, do an additional attack. So who doesn't love the fact is, spend this resource to play an attack, and then you get to do 1 extra damage for it. Definitely great, especially when you have something that does 5 or 8 damage. You can take out some big guys very quickly. Alright, let's look at our basics. So now we're going to get Colossus. This is even more fun. Now he can be played in multiple decks. 4 costs. This is ability to reflect his main character. Reduce the cost to play Colossus by 1 if your identity has a mutant or X-Men trait. And toughness. Stand behind me, Colossus. Which I probably butchered that. So he could only cost 3. It's kind of interesting that it's mutant or X-Men, because I think they did that because you have mutant or X-Men. So it doesn't matter which side they're on. Definitely that's cool. But then he gets his toughness, so basically he can stand to take an extra hit. Which again works well with his attack, because you can use that toughness to just force that. But again, give him that training, give him 1 extra attack. Definitely could be cool. Then we have X-Mansion. Support location X-Men. Alter Ego action. Exhaust X-Men action to heal 1 damage from a mutant or X-Men character. Any player whose alter ego has a mutant trait may trigger this ability. So that is also really cool because you play this, you can exhaust it to heal 1 damage from X-Men or mutant character. Doesn't matter if it's a main character or an ally. Plus, any other player can use it. So, like, I have it sitting on my turn. My partner needs to use it really quickly. Go ahead, do it. Exhaust it, and then with my turn, it'll pop back up, and I can use it on my turn if I need it. That's cool. We have Shadow and Steel. We have 3 copies of Ready to Rumble. Condition. Play under any player's control, max 1 per player. Hero's response. After you change form, discard this card to ready your hero. Yeah, nice. So just you play it, it just kind of hangs out there, and then when you flip over your card, boom, go. Hey, flip over Colossus, if we need to, or, I think it's more for, like, Shadowcat's ability. If you end up exhausting her, you can do that. You can exhaust with one thing, and you can play this after you change form to discard, to ready them. So definitely cool. You get some good combos, plus it can be played in anybody's decks. You have a lot of synergy with other characters. Energy, Genius, and Strength. Alright, then our last bit for Shadowcat is we have our obligation. Permanently phased. Give to the Kitty Pride player. Flip your mass form upgrade to phase. You cannot attack, defend, or change mass form. Alter Ego action. Exhaust Kitty Pride. Remove permanently phased from the game. So this is definitely like these. I like when they get ones that are a little bit different. So basically there's no way to avoid this without exhausting your character and losing your turn. So you can go to it your phase form, which is like, oh, that'd be great if I'm always in phase form. I can get a lot of things about it, but you can't attack or defend, or change your match. So you can still thwart, though, which is interesting, because you can still flip to your alter ego side, or you can still be on your hero side, and you can still thwart every turn, which is very interesting. So you can keep trying to do thwart actions, you just can't attack or defend. But you're probably not going to want to stay in it too long because, if you can't attack or defend, you're going to lose a lot of stuff from your deck unless you're just trying to thwart. And she's not bad at thwarting, but you're probably going to want to do other stuff. Then our nemesis is White Queen, which, yeah, they've butted heads a lot. So Elite and Psionic. Villainous. Well, White Queen is engaged with you. You are confused. Boost, you are confused. Shuts to confused you. Makes sense. She's a mentalist. Telepath. The Hellfire Club. When defeated, the player who defeated this scheme searches the encounter deck, discard pile, and set aside area for a copy of Hellfire. Pawn minion puts it into play, engaged with them. So you just automatically throw some enemies out. And then we have 2 copies of those Hellfire pawns. 1 scheme to attack with Hellfire trait, Guard, Patrol, and Surge. Now this is see where she's going to be really good against these guys because she can ignore that Guard and Patrol ability. And then Boost, put Hellfire Pawn into play, engage with you. Now I'm really hoping that just because we've seen these guys with this ability, Guard, Patrol, and Surge, I'm hoping there is a later scenario that has the Hellfire Club and we get more of these guys. Because, I mean, this is like, your little troopers are going to keep coming out. And then we have Telepathic Restraint. Attached to your identity. When Telepathic Restraint is attached to your identity, you are stunned. Action. Spend 2 Genius resources to discard this card. Be a deer and don't move or talk. That's better. Yes, it's definitely crazy. Now, most people are like, isn't the White Queen a hero? She was a bad guy for a long time. Again, in X-Men history, she probably spent at least a decent amount of it as a villain, until she finally teamed up with Generation X in the 90s. And then she slowly became an X-Men after that. Yeah, she started off as a villain, so it does make sense for this thematically. Plus, she sometimes reverts to evilish ways in the comics. Alright, so that was part 1 of Mutant Genesis. So that just went through our heroes. So check back for part 2 if you want to see the spoilers and see all the cards and the villains and all their stuff. See you guys later. Bye.